If we're going to blow something up, we're going to make it a fictitious place. If we're going to have a nice meal there, it can be a real restaurant.
And if you're going to have a villain, maybe don't name it after your father or mother-in-law. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is this, don't use real people's names.
Oh, yeah, I always change them up a little bit and anagram them and stuff like that. But yeah,
your last one's named Don Platt. I didn't appreciate that at all. So.
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
Welcome to the show, brought to you as always by the fabulous Vellum, the best formatting solution.
Who did you say? Who do you say, Doug?
Fantabulous Vellum.
That's the enthusiasm.
That's right. Coming in here hot and strong and ready to destroy your formatting needs.
Oh, my God. You sound like a wrestling commentator guy.
I could probably be a wrestling commentator. I don't know. I was just talking to somebody the other day about how amazingly quick and responsive Vellum is. Like they had a problem. I was like, just email them, they'll fix it. Like they fix these problems. They have a problem. They're on it like super fast. So, they had a problem earlier this year and it didn't affect me. I don't know if it affected you or not, but I did read on some things where people were talking about how KDP had banned a couple of fonts that they were used to. And
wait. They banned fonts?
Well, I don't know if they
they were misbehaving. They were pretending to be other fonts, so they got themselves banned.
Well, maybe they just band together and decided to become. I think they were like wingdings or something like that. Those are fonts that are just like out there, just hanging out, being like, "Yeah, we're fonts. Yes, I'm a little
punk
square.
fonts, man.
Triangles. Yeah,
we're here for the party, mate. Yeah, I'm a Garamond. I'm going to kick your ass."
The wingding and a Garamond fighting in the back. Club wingding.
That's it. You're banned.
This is how we lose our sponsors. This right here. We're at the midst of it.
I have derailed
we have gone astray. My point was they Vellum within an hour or two had gone in and figured out how to fix. So these wingdings, how many people are using wingdings, but they're on it like this to fix it. That's how responsive. And if you message them for their customer service, God bless. Last time I did it was pretty quick. I think it was Brad going, "You're an idiot. Just look here." But I appreciate that because that's what my wife tells me. So
I think we're known as idiots up and down amongst the Vellum staff. There's a young lady there that has helped us with translation uploads, and every time she's very patiently, as I mentioned before, here's the instructions. Well, we did that. She goes, "No, you didn't do this one." Oh,
my email yesterday.
She's very patient with us.
Their Vellum is great, but I think if you have a problem with them, their customer service
top notch.
Also, makes you big thank you to all you Patreon supporters out there. We've got some great bonus questions on there, so if you guys jump on there, we've also got all sorts of other fun things. But if you just find any value out of listening to us talk, which could be good. Mostly you want to listen to our guest talk because that's why we asked the question. Yeah. But pop on over there. It is, we greatly appreciate it. It is not the cheap thing to put out this podcast, and we appreciate all the help. We have lots of extras.
A little bit of support goes a long way.
Yeah. It's only $3 a month. It's,
price going up soon. Get in now while it's only $3 a month.
Buy it now. Get in. Yes, grandfather yourself in. So, but we also have a really great guest today.
Who we got, Doug? Who we got?
We have Maggie Marr, who is a USA Today best-selling romance author. But for our purposes, she's also a former ICM Motion Picture Literary subsidiary agent. She's the founder of the Maggie Marr Legal PC, a boutique entertainment and intellectual property law firm for creatives. You know what you are, Nick? You're a creative.
I'm a creative. Oh, that's nice. I'm trying to keep up with this long-winded, freaking brilliant intro. She's an important person.
She's very important. And she is she's going to be give us some information about the legal side of things. So it's going to be very, very educational, very informational. I hope you guys buckle up. But before we get started with that, we have a listener question from our recent guest, Kathleen Antrim.
Kathleen Antrim, thank you so much for sticking around with us for a listener question. And you are an Outliers Writing University guru, so you're going to have a good one, I'm sure. What do you got?
Thanks so much, guys. What I would like to know from both of you is, if you were just starting out today, what would you now, with your experience, advise your beginner self, what to do and how to do it and what have you? What kind of advice would you give yourself when you were first starting out, knowing what you know now?
I got one. So my first book I wrote in 2017, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was still working full time, and I basically sat on it. Like I self-pubbed it so my mom could have a copy, and sold 100 copies or something over 6 months or whatever. I basically did nothing for 2 years. And then I decided I'm going to do a career change and I'll have another go at this writing. If I'd only known that in 2017 was the tail end of a gold era for Kindle books, and if I'd just promoted the book and done some promotion around it back in 2017, I could have really got a good jump start on my career back then. Instead, I waited until into 2019 and really 2020, when the Kindle market was now flooded. And it was much, much harder to launch. So that would be probably, there's a million other things I tell myself too, but if I only got one, that would be it.
And Douglas?
Okay. I would say the very first thing I'd have done was started a mailing list, because the getting visibility and getting seen by readers is important. But once they see me, I want them to be able to stay with me. And early on, I was still writing, not full time, so I was not writing nearly as many books. So I was doing one or two books a year. So, keeping that engagement up is super important with fans. So that's probably one of the things I would have done early on instead of waiting way too long.
Yeah, that's a good one. Great question, Kathleen. Thank you so much for sticking around.
My pleasure, and great advice. Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the show, Maggie. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here.
We need smart people on here, and so we're trying. Otherwise, it's just
you've raised the IQ of the show by about 4 digits. So.
Well, we'll just get started off because obviously you work as an attorney, but you also have been in the publishing world anyway. So if you could give us kind of a real quick synopsis on how you got into publishing and into working with creatives.
So I was an attorney practicing first in Illinois and then in Colorado, and then moved to Los Angeles and started in the mailroom at ICM, which at the time was the second or arguably third biggest agency in the world. The day I started in the mailroom, there were 3 other attorneys and a PhD pushing mail carts. So I worked my way up.
No way.
Yeah.
You're a qualified attorney and you get to push a mail cart around.
So, it's a kind of a tried and true proven pathway to becoming an agent. So I eventually became an agent in the motion picture literary department. After a stint in books to film and TV, I represented screenplay writers and directors primarily. While I was an agent, I would write just for myself because I'd always been a writer. And one of my colleagues sold my first book at auction in a 2-book deal. At that point, I had 2 young kids. And so I determined that writing because someone had paid me to write was much different than writing just for fun. And so I left agenting and became a full-time writer for a while. But what happened was that a number of my clients would still reach out to me to read their scripts and to look at their deals. And then when my author friends discovered that I understood books to film and TV, they would ask me to read their books and look at their deals. And then also having a background in publishing, that kind of organically became part of my practice as well. So I think I was about 5 years in to practicing and writing. And my husband said, hey, if you practice law 5 or 6 hours a day and you write, 2 hours a day, you have an entertainment law firm. And I said, oh yeah, I guess I do. So then I started treating it like a true entertainment law firm, but it's always been through word of mouth. And it's been through friends of friends referring people to me when they need some help with contracts or publishing or books to film and TV. And then I still have some directors, screenplay writers, restaurateurs, fashion designers. I like to think that the people I work with are people who take their ideas and make them into real things in the world. So,
oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow. What a a wide background of experience in everything entertainment. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, have you been in the music industry?
That is the one area that I don't. I have done some clearances, for authors and then for projects to clear lyrics and things like that, or to try to get licensing deals in place for people who want to use them. But music is a very specialized area, so I refer those things out. That's not my area of expertise.
And you cover everything else, and you've worked in every other field. That's an amazing background.
So,
thank you.
I don't care. Like when an author like me does come to you, what kind of things would someone like me want a creative attorney for?
Yeah. I think it depends on your business, right? So a number of my clients are independently published authors. And so sometimes they'll be presented with agreements from vendors that they work with, or they may want to have an agreement in place for vendors that they work with, whether that be for foreign rights or even cover designers or editors, things like that. I have some clients who have reached out and asked me to create agreements for people that they're working with, consultants or like their PAs, things like that. So basically it's anything that you might need a review. Now, I will say it's my opinion, but I'm an entertainment attorney, that when things are starting to deal with your rights, how you're going to convey your rights, how you're going to license your rights, it doesn't have to be me, but my suggestion is to have someone review those agreements, because I have gotten the bad side of that, meaning that somebody will enter into an agreement unrepresented, and then they'll come to me and say, hey, I don't think this is exactly what I wanted it to be. Can you figure out a way to get me out of this knot? And that can be a little bit challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably expensive.
I guess it can be. I tried not to be, meaning that, yes, for the longest time, I wasn't really billing well for my time. And it was actually one of my author friends who said, you provide a service, you need to be better at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I too run a small business, as most independent authors do. So there are a couple things I took away from agenting. Like, I don't bill to have calls with clients. I don't bill to Zoom with clients, and that's a little bit different. And there are times when we will do work for a flat fee so that a small independent author can know what their bill is going to look like and they don't get surprised. And then when we move things into the books, into the film and TV space, or when we do a publishing deal, we will commission those deals. So that oftentimes authors prefer that.
So, real simple question for you. You mentioned about rights, and I know we're going to talk about them, but I was kind of also talk about a little bit of copyright as well. And really, from the standpoint of an idiot author like myself, what is the difference between the two to start off with? Like, is there a difference? Are they the same thing? I hear the word right.
Right. So when I talk about rights, I'm thinking about like your subsidiary and ancillary rights as well as your publishing rights, because you license those to a trad publisher. And when you create a book, your copyright is automatic. However, if you file with the U.S. Copyright Office, you get additional protections on your copyrighted work. I mean, one of those is that it shifts the burden of proof, meaning that if you have filed with the U.S. Copyright Office, there is an assumption that that work is yours. So then if you find someone infringing on it and you have your copyright certificate, you can send that to Amazon and they'll take the infringer down. I do believe anyone smart enough to write a book can file for their own copyright at the U.S. Copyright Office. That's not something, in my opinion, that I do it for people, but I bill them. And I think any author can do it for themselves. And the filing fee is only $65. Now, the website for the U.S. Copyright Office is a government website. So the first time you do it can be a little bit challenging. But if you sit down with a cup of coffee, have a couple hours of time, most authors can work their way through a U.S. copyright filing.
Most, she said, Nick. I'm not sure about me, but most.
Yeah.
No, my wife's doing it for me, but so it's really simple in my eyes, and I think it's actually $45 for for books. Yeah, at the moment, but there is something going around that it might get increased. It's been put out there that it might go up considerably, actually. And of course, the whole copyright thing has come to light very much with the Anthropic lawsuit, because registered copyrighted books have been included in the Anthropic lawsuit. So dumbasses like myself and Doug here, who fell under it's copyrighted as soon as you write it, because that's what American law says, believed that and didn't copyright them, and now not involved in that lawsuit, which is costly. So I'm actually going through the process of copywriting everything now. We're doing sort of I've got over 30 books out there, so we're doing like 4 a week and uploading them.
So smart. I think that it's always good to do it. I think the optimal time is within the first 30 to 90 days of publication. But if you miss that window, go ahead and do the filing.
So that was my next question. If for a long running series at that point, is it worth going ahead and going through all of those? If you have 100 books, that's going to be either $6,500 or $4,500, right?
It could be. It could be really beneficial. And if you run into a challenge, you'll be glad you did it.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've seen people have about copywriting?
About copywriting? I don't know if there's misconceptions. I think that sometimes authors will not believe that there's a benefit to filing for copyright. And the benefits are that it shifts the burden of proof. And it also allows for statutory damages and attorney's fees. So if you run into a situation where someone's infringing on your work, that can be helpful in finding an attorney who I don't litigate. So if you need a litigator to pursue an infringer and you already have your copyright certificate, then they know that if they win that suit, there will be a payment to them as well as to the author. And then, as more and more distributors, the first level of interface with, say, Amazon and maybe even Barnes & Noble is not a human. It is great to be able to upload or say, I have the copyright on this. And then they are like, oh, okay, so there's a presumption that this is the correct owner of this work. So I think it's valuable.
Well, my unprofessional opinion would be to agree with you, but that was also, life taught us those lessons as we came along, like Nick said. So
yeah, we've learned it the hard way. We'll see whether that all pans out. There's been some stirring in there that they've someone challenged it. It should cover other stuff. We'll see where it goes. And now a quick word from this episode's sponsor. Parallel Truths, a Kickstarter-exclusive graphic novel anthology featuring 12 original stories from incredibly imaginative writers and artists, including Andy Weir, Tony Lee, Eloisa James, and J.N. Chaney, paired with legendary artists like Lee Townsend, John Ridgway, and many more.
Every story explores a different version of reality, ghost voyages, impossible timelines, fractured memories, alternate lives, all wrapped in this beautiful, oversized anthology. But once the Kickstarter ends, that's it. There's no retail release.
Kickstarter launches today, June 9th. Link in the show notes. Brought to you by Author Nation, November 10th through 13th in Las Vegas. Now we'll get back to the show. So for most indie authors, many indie authors out there are sitting there going, well, I don't have contracts. I'm indie. I'm not doing it. But that's not true, right? If you have a cover designer, you probably have a contract of some sort. And certainly your editor, narrators, all this, there's contracts involved. What do the indie authors need to be aware of that they're probably not aware of when it comes to that stuff?
So one of the things that you can run into sometimes is that, say you've done a cover and you maybe haven't entered into an agreement, then you may not own that cover, right? So unless you've entered into a work for hire agreement where you own the rights to that cover, I've seen it happen where then, say, an indie author decides that they're going to license the publishing rights to a traditional publisher. They have to get clearance from the cover designer if it wasn't truly a work for hire and the author doesn't own it, right? And I've seen that with artwork as well, because, especially in the romantasy space, and you'll see great art within independent books. Now, a number of authors do have those artists enter into work for hire agreements to show that the author now is the owner of that artwork, which I think can be really beneficial. I think it's just laying the groundwork so that if and when your business starts to expand, you're able to show the chain of title for these elements that you want to continue to utilize.
And work for hire is a key phrase, is it not?
It is. It has to be specific within the agreement. And then also we put in language that says if that agreement was not deemed to be a work for hire, that the artist hereby assigns all right, title, and interests to the copyright to the author. It's kind of like a fallback position, because say you were to go to court and the judge said, well, this isn't a true work for hire agreement, then it's an assignment of those rights to the author. And you just want to have ownership over, as I believe indie authors benefit from having ownership over as much of the different elements that they put with their books. And all of this just proves, a copyright proves that the author is the owner. The work for hire agreement proves that you own the art, you own the cover, those things that become important elements for the entire book.
Right. And so much of that is, it's not about being able to get into litigation with somebody if they wrong you. It's about preventing that situation ever occurring if the language is right, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In comparison, we talk copyrights, we talk the trademarks. Like, how should indie authors think about the trademarks for like pen names, if you're using a different name than yourself, or even your own name for that matter, like the imprints, logos, all the series titles. Like I'm always kind of curious. There's a few Douglas Pratts wandering around, and they may be trying to, take credit from me.
Well, and that's exactly why people do trademark. So 7 years ago, I would have said, why would an author want to trademark anything, right? But with the growth of the indie market, I believe there are a couple things that an indie author at a certain point in their career may want to consider trademarking, and it's because it becomes a brand asset, right? Just like Nike, the swoosh, or the Apple logo. Those are brand assets. And that's how buyers, consumers know what they're getting, right? So my thought is always, if you are making a lot of money, and I understand that that's sort of subjective, but if you're making a lot of money on a specific pen name, you may want to consider trademarking that pen name, right? The other thing is that your best-selling series, if your series is making a substantial portion of your income, you may want to trademark the series name. Now, you can't trademark an individual title name. You can trademark a series name. And the USPTO thinks of a series generally as 2 books or more. So when we file for trademark for authors, we're filing for trademark generally in 2 to 3 classes with the USPTO. It's generally for digital and then also for paper, right? But I like to think about it from a business perspective. Where are you making the most money? And those are the assets you want to protect first. And again, it becomes incredibly helpful if all of a sudden somebody is using Douglas Pratt as a name and say they're putting like a shadow book that looks like it's your book, but it's not your book on a site, obviously to kind of draft off of your own success and to confuse your readers. Then you reach out to Amazon and say, hey, I have the trademark for this pen name and I have a trademark for this series name. That will come down very quickly.
So if I have if I have a trademark for Douglas Pratt and there's another legitimate Douglas Pratt putting a book up there, does that mean I can reach out to Amazon and say, hey, they can't have that? Or is that going to be more?
Well, if it's their legal name, it may become a little bit muddy, but if it's a pen name, then they'll most likely take it down. And you won't be able to get the trademark if somebody else has got the trademark on it. So there is a 2-step process. So when somebody comes to me with a pen name, the first thing we do is clear it worldwide. Because if there's somebody else out there who already has the trademark or somebody else out there that has been using it first, you may not want to file for trademark. Well, first of all, if they have the trademark, you're not going to get it. But secondly, you may not want to alert them to your use. There is that as well. And then what has started to happen, which has happened in corporations for forever, is that people are starting to do that clearance search on potential series names before they even name it. And that's because they want to see, is there anything out there that is going to prevent me from being the sole sort of owner? Another way to get around it, so say someone had trademarked Douglas Pratt already, but Douglas Pratt was like your sort of brand that you wanted to continue to maintain, is logos. If you were to create a logo that utilized Douglas Pratt and you were going to put that logo on every one of your books, most likely we can get the logo mark through the USPTO. And then that's a stamp that you can put on your books that alerts your readers, this is my book.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, Maggie, and ask rates or anything like that. But to trademark a series name, are we talking 3 digits, 4 digits, 5 digits for that process?
Yeah. So the way our firm works is we do it in 2 phases. We do phase 1, which is to clear it and to write an opinion letter as to whether or not we think the mark will get through the USPTO. And we do charge for that. We charge $2,000 to do it. And then the second phase is when we actually collect the specimens and we do the filing. And then we stay with it until it actually gets through the USPTO, and we charge another $2,000 for that. The filing fees with the USPTO, I think, are running about $350 per class at this point. So copyright, I absolutely believe an author can do on their own. Trademark, if you have a background, you could probably do it, but you may want to have someone do it. It doesn't have to be me, but you may want to have someone do it, because everything we do on our side, once we file with the USPTO, they assign an examining attorney. And that examining attorney who works for the USPTO does all the stuff that we did on their side to see if our assessment is accurate, that this mark should be able to register with the USPTO. So,
how long does the process normally take?
So it's a great question.
You'd love to know the answer.
Well, it slows down after the filing. So if somebody comes to me, we can generate an opinion letter usually within 5 to 7 days. We can do our search and we can generate the opinion letter and we can send that back. And then if they say, okay, this is great, go ahead and file. So we can collect the specimens and we can get the filing done usually within the next, 10 days or so. But then it slows down. The thing that slows it down is that we have to wait then for the USPTO to assign an examining attorney to that case file. At one point, it felt like it was taking 9 to 12 months. I can say that it feels like it's getting closer to 6 months. It used to be 6 months and then it got really slow for a while. Once we get an examining attorney assigned, it again moves quickly. They either say, yes, we agree with you. We think that this mark should be able to register. And then they recommend that it's published in the USPTO Gazette. And the publication window is for 11 weeks. And that's so anyone in the world who may have a claim to that mark can come forward and say, we object to this mark registering. And after that 11 weeks, then the mark registers. Now, I can tell you that even though it takes a long time, once it registers, that registration, you kind of plant your flag the minute you file. Right. So
right.
That's a good thing.
As long as it goes through, then it retros kind of to the beginning of it.
Yes.
Legally.
And then also there's the intent to use, right? I mentioned how people are kind of predetermining if a series name is going to be available to them. You can file an intent to use any mark with the USPTO, and then you have 6 months to show that it's actually in use. And on top of that, the USPTO will allow you to extend that. Usually they'll allow you about 3 to 5 extensions, which are each 6 months for a fee. But it then gives you time as an author to actually get the mark in use. So your question was, how long does it take? It doesn't take our side very long. It's just sometimes we're waiting on the USPTO to assign the process.
We assume you're probably going to be good. So
yeah,
it's going to be the government that messes it.
Well, it just takes a while. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. For me, when I'm coming up for the title for a new book, I Google it. I see what's out there, right? Because the first thing, I go on Amazon, search for it and see if anything comes up that's the same or close. That's the first thing. When I did new series, I did the same thing. And I think most people probably do that. But it's interesting to go the next step to trademark it.
Can I trademark the name Nicholas Harvey? And that way I can then...
He wants to trademark it and then not let me...
Well, that's not very nice.
No, I know.
Have you met Doug?
Just now. She's like, I've heard stories, but I was going to try to trademark Stephen King, but I figure he's probably already got it.
He may have already trademarked that, and if not, he would probably object to your
I imagine
your trademarking
he would.
that.
He
might say.
So what other legal housekeeping should, especially both successful but also emerging new authors, consider to become, if you want to start making that move from being, I'm just a writer who's written a couple books, to making this a business? There's all sorts of legal things we should be thinking about, and oftentimes we who are creatives don't think about stuff like that. So
one of the things is that you may want to consider becoming an LLC or a corporate entity. I'm not an accountant, nor do I practice tax law, but it can be hugely beneficial to authors to have an LLC or a corporate entity, because then you're running both the income as well as all your expenses from one space, right? And I think that it can also have benefits for you when tax season comes up. So I'm a big believer in that. And just so you know, I get a lot of authors who will say, I just started this because I really love to write, and I thought I'd make just a little bit of side money. And then all of a sudden, they're like a rocket ship to the moon, right? Like they get to the 4th or the 5th book and suddenly they're making 6 figures and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? Or, oh my goodness, what do I do? And I do say, whenever I speak publicly, I'm like, it is like you're building a spaceship as you're traveling to the moon, right? Because suddenly they have all these concerns that they didn't have before. Or then all of a sudden, like foreign publishers are reaching out, or they want to translate into these different territories, or they're considering, should I do a deal for, to lay off my paperback and my special editions with a trad publisher? Can I maintain my ebook? All of those are sort of the questions that come up. And those are things that I spend a lot of time talking to clients and potential clients about. How do you continue on that trajectory and not be kind of out there feeling really, I don't know, like you're floating out there with nothing to grab onto?
So on another side note, a little more, something else we've discussed a little bit, and both of us have thought about. We both have a pretty good backlist, and some of us, mainly Nick, is older, so his lifespan's not as long as mine.
I could go at any moment. If I just fall over out the chair, please, Maggie, keep going. Finish the show.
It's the stress of island life that wears on him. I feel for him. I figure it's gonna. But estate planning, like that's something to think about too. That we have to think about. If obviously, if I die, I get hit by a bus, or
Nick strangles you,
or Nick strangles me, which is more than likely. What should we as authors be doing to ensure legacy for that?
Great question
for the future. Yes,
great question. And I've spoken on that one a couple of times at different writers' conferences. So estate planning and wills are very specific state to state in the United States. So the first thing I think that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find an estate attorney that has hopefully a background in intellectual property. That is really easy to do in California as well as in New York, and also in Georgia because of Atlanta has had so much production, right? It can be a little bit more challenging in some states that are maybe not known for having film, TV, like music, publishing background.
I'm sorry, we have Nashville and Memphis rock and roll.
Because of
music,
Nashville, there are estate attorneys that are well versed in intellectual property, right? So that's kind of what creates that sort of ability. But I've had clients ask, and so far I've been able to help them find an estate attorney that understands it. Or what I've also had is they will have an estate attorney that may pivot to me and say, so can you walk me through some of the issues that might be present with regards to somebody who has a big catalog of intellectual property? So one of the things that is really interesting is that I remember hearing an estate attorney, I think it was out of Massachusetts, who had done a lot of intellectual property. So think about this. She said, when you pass, your heirs get your books in totality, and they have to agree to do anything with regards to those titles. And when she told me that, my kids were, I think they were like 13 and 16. I couldn't get them to agree as to who was going to sit in the front seat. So the idea of them agreeing as to like where to distribute new covers, should we go with this publisher? Should we do this, that, or the other? That to me, I was like, that seems like a complete impossibility. So one of the things some authors will do is they will appoint, it used to be when nobody did indie, that a traditional publisher and the agent would kind of act as a consultant to the family, and that would be helpful to them. But a lot of independently published authors don't necessarily have those entities that are kind of have that knowledge base. It's really you that has the knowledge base as far as your books and how you publish them and how it works. So what you can do, there are companies that do it as well, like they'll do literary estate management, but I think that usually you have to be at a certain level to make that worthwhile. But you can put your books in trust, or you can pick a person who's going to be the manager of the literary estate. Now, that your heirs could all get a piece of that revenue stream, but then you've only got one person who has to make the decisions as to whether or not you're going to do new covers. Are you going to do a special edition? Are you going to try to find a publisher? And as the person overseeing it, they may take a small percentage because they're doing that work on your behalf. I've had authors who have big backlists who have children who become writers, and that seems like the perfect person. I mean, Dune is a perfect example, right? Like, I think it's his son that manages the entire literary estate for him, or for the heirs and for the family. So they'll have a child or an heir that they decide is the right person for that. Now, if you don't have somebody that's maybe going to be in our world, it's maybe worth a conversation with someone saying, hey, do you want to be the person managing this? And if not, let's look to find someone who's willing to do it, who can take a fee to be the manager of the literary estate. But again, very state specific. So you'll want to consult with an estate attorney within your state.
And now, let's hear from this episode's sponsor.
Hi, I'm Jamie Davis, show manager for Author Nation, and I hope to see all of you in Las Vegas this coming November. In the meantime, we're getting the band back together, and I'm really excited because even the drummer is coming out of retirement. Of course, there will be repercussions.
And now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, so a question that everyone has at some point, if you write enough books, you're going to want to quote some lyrics in there. You're going to want to mention a movie or a TV show.
I just put a Dolly Parton impersonator in mine.
Okay.
How legal is that?
Well, I mean, okay, so probably you're fine. She's a public figure. If you're not saying anything disparaging, the likelihood of Dolly Parton coming for you on
I'm from Tennessee. We never say anything disparaging about Dolly.
So. I mean, really?
Yeah, not about Dolly.
Isn't she a saint? I truly believe she might be the only living saint out there based on all that she's done in the world. I mean, she's amazing.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, she's done so many huge things to benefit just humanity in general, not to mention the songs that she's written that create joy for everyone. So that being...
We do love Dolly, just so she knows before she comes and sues us.
I love Dolly. So. Yeah, I love her. So that being said, you're probably in a safe space because, she is a public figure and you're not saying anything disparaging. With lyrics, it's a no-fly zone, right? Like you have to get lyrics cleared, period. End of story. I have had authors say, thank you for telling me that. I'm still going to put them in my books. And if they come for me, they come for me, which, arguably as an independent author, you can take the book down and you can beg for forgiveness and hopefully they don't sue you. But they have the ability to, right? And they'll probably win because it is a copyright infringement, to use somebody's lyrics without clearing them first.
Presumably it has to be clear that it is being used as like two words in a song used out of reference is like, who can say that it was taken from the song? But if it's clearly used as a quotation from the song, then it's cut and dried, right?
You can mention a song, you cannot use the lyrics,
So am I right in saying the general rule of thumb is for public figures and anything like that, as long as you're not using them in a bad way, in a bad light, then it's kind of free game.
Yes, I will say that there are certain companies that are very litigious. And so if you wanted to categorize one of their characters as a public figure, you would not want to do that, right? Like you're not going to want to name any Disney character.
Well, you can't put Bugs Bunny in your story. Like I walked down the street and shook hands with Bugs Bunny, but you can say we were sitting there watching Star Wars on TV.
Yes, you can say that. Yeah.
Right.
That's what humans do.
How does that work with like real locations too? Like if I use a restaurant, like sometimes you want to use something that's really there in a town. Is there some legal ramifications about that? I mean, I assume you don't want to badmouth them.
I mean, if you say that they gave everyone salmonella poisoning and they killed the whole town, it could be problematic. And I would say to you, please make up a name for the restaurant instead of utilizing the real restaurant. And here's the thing. So there is the letter of the law and the application of it. It's very expensive to get sued. It's also very expensive to sue someone, right? So disparagement, slander, all of those things come into play. But there is this idea that creative people get to utilize, you have the right to tell your story,
That makes good sense, I guess. So that helps us
a little bit.
Just common sense. A common sense sounds like a good thing. Like don't badmouth people for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've talked about it before. If we're going to blow something up, we're going to make it a fictitious place. If we're going to have a nice meal there, it can be a real restaurant.
And if you're going to have a villain, maybe don't name it after your father or mother-in-law. Do you know what I mean? Like there is this, don't use real people's names.
Change them up a little bit.
Yeah.
I always change them up a little bit and anagram them and stuff like that. But yeah,
your last one's named Don Platt. I didn't appreciate that at all. So. Terrible. And then having eaten by a whale, it was ridiculous. So, okay, let's talk about. You've obviously worked in Hollywood a little bit, so people are always wanting to know, how do I get my books made into movies? So, I guess since you've worked with the books to film and television rights, what do you see as what would make a book or a series more attractive for that kind of adaptation. So if I'm going to write one with the goal of hoping one day to get it out there, what should I be focusing on? So,
I've got the first answer for that. They have to know about it.
probably true.
Just because all your family say, boy, or all your readers say, boy, this would make a great movie, that does not mean shit to Hollywood.
Well, there is, I feel like there are tried and true methods that books get discovered, right? So one of them is there are development executives for producers and for studios and streamers that are constantly looking for great material that will fit whatever the producer's mandate is at the time. And they find great books the same way we do. They look at lists, they're on Amazon, they scroll, they get referrals from friends and family, and they read them. And the first thing that they're going to do is reach out and say, are the film and TV rights available for this? And that's often before they read anything. Because if the film and TV rights have already been acquired or under option, then that development executive is not necessarily going to want to spend the time to read the book, right? So that's sort of the discovery process that takes place. The other thing is the submission process. So there are people that represent books in the film and TV space and send them out to producers that they have relationships with over and over again because of the conversations they're having with different producers, to say, what is the mandate? What are you looking for? And then the representative will say, oh, I just read that. You should read this. So that's the submission process. So organic discovery, submission process. And then the other one is the sexiest because we all love stories if we're working in this world. And it's the lightning strike event, right? Where you get on the elevator and Issa Rae is standing there and the elevator gets stopped. And she says, oh, what do you do? And you say, I write books. And she says, what kind of books? And then you tell her and she says, oh my goodness, I want that for my production company. So that is the lightning strike event, which we all dearly love. And it's the sexiest one of all. Maybe doesn't happen as often.
I spent 3 years riding elevators in LA. 3 years of my life gone down the drain.
Yeah. And you never like bumped into Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Issa Rae, or Cameron Diaz? No? Yeah.
Nobody. Maybe you were riding the wrong elevator. Did you ever think about that? You were at Chick-fil-A. So that's really not where they're going to be. I'm just saying. So.
But I would say is writing the best book you possibly can, right? Writing the best book that you possibly can and continuing to write and continuing to build your audience, because there are a number of books that get put under option where maybe they're not the splashiest or they haven't hit a ton of lists, but they do resonate with a producer or they do resonate with someone, who wants to try to develop it into film and TV. So, if you say, let's use round numbers because I'm not an accountant, you say 10 million books or 5 million books get published a year, a very small number get put under option and an even smaller number actually get put into production. So
a much smaller number, right? There's
very
so many
small.
that get optioned that go nowhere. We hear of this all the time. Yeah, it's a slow moving system. So if I was riding the lift up and down and I happened to run across somebody of import and they said, oh, send me your book. If this happens to an author in whatever environment they get in and they make a contact and they get reached out, what's the first thing they should do?
Well, they can totally send them the book, right? And then any sort of professional. So here's the thing. I've been seeing a lot of scams and you have to be really careful, right? So any professional producer, studio executive, someone like that, when you send them the book, if they're interested, they'll be like, oh my goodness, let's have a conversation. I love this book. But then at some point, business affairs, either it's their personal business affairs as a production company or the studio business affairs is going to reach out and say, we want to put this under an option agreement or a shopping agreement or an attachment agreement. And at that point, you're going to want to hire me or someone like me to negotiate that deal on your behalf. Because again, we're going back to the conveyance of rights. So just recently, I had someone reach out to me. It was an author that I don't think that I've ever met personally, but she's seen me speak at conferences. And she said, I just got this email from someone at Sony. Here it is. Can you tell me, is this real? And I looked at the email address and it had Sony in it, but it was like a Gmail something. And so I reached out to one of my colleagues at Sony Business Affairs and I said, is this real? This doesn't look real to me. Is it real? She goes, I'll get right back with you on this. And she conveyed it to their fraud department. And their fraud department responded to me and said, thank you so much for sending this. This is a scam. and this is what the author should do. And one of the things was reporting it to the FBI, right? So I forwarded that to the author. But the thing is that I've been seeing more and more of these, and the dummy email addresses actually look real. Do you know? They're like so
brilliant
close.
At hiding that stuff. We're getting inundated with them lately.
I had
with
one
different ones,
which was a long-term scam, meaning that somebody reached out to the author and said, I'm a producer, I really want to make this, but you have to have a screenplay written. And the author said, well, I don't write screenplays and I don't know how to do that. And they were like, okay, well, if you ever decide to do one, let me know. And then she got off that phone call, and 15 minutes later, somebody called her and said, hey, so we're a company that does screenplays for books. If you send us $10,000, we'll write the screenplay. So that was a long-term scam. Here's the thing. Money is supposed to flow to the author, not away from the author when it comes to producers and studios. Producers do not ask authors to pay to write the script that they're then going to take out and pitch, right? It is a producer's job to find the screenplay writer, to set it up with the studio, and then the studio pays the screenplay writer to go to draft. So anyone that comes at you and says, give me $5,000 or give me $10,000 or give me $2,000 and I will set your project up, that is not traditionally, and you hear my caveat, because who knows, there could be a new business model out there, but not traditionally how film and TV works.
Certainly would be, if it's a new business model, I don't think I want to be a test guinea pig on it.
Yeah.
That's not really sure, let me try that.
And so if it feels sketchy, reach out to me or reach out to another author and say, hey, have you heard? And then there's still author beware, and there's great groups, and authors are really great at being able to provide feedback or their thoughts or whether or not they've had a similar situation,
So, side note, real question, because you said one of the things was I have gotten at least 3 of them from Frida McFadden this week who said that my book was brilliant. So should we be sending those to the FBI?
So is it truly? It's not from Frida.
No, it's a scam. It's totally a scam.
We get them several a day to all of us. From I got one from Sylvia Plath a couple of months ago,
which is pretty impressive, I have to say.
A vampire. She's a vampire.
Sylvia Plath.
I would love to if you've reincarnated her.
That would be a great book, by the way. Sylvia Plath, the vampire, comes back to co-write something. I think that right there.
Yeah, there's a specific link that they provided, that Sony provided. And after this, I will send it to you if you want to have it. And it's like a specific space at the FBI to...
If we have it, we can throw it in our show. I'm just curious because
we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
For anyone to have, yeah.
So now to kind of get back, I was just kind of blown away. I should be sending all my emails to the FBI. I will. Just for some of us who are less intelligent and just explain a little bit more what the difference is between option and what it really is, though, as opposed to just
a shopping agreement
actually having a moving mate.
Yeah. So an option basically is what they're asking for is an option to buy, right? So the option is a period of time, and it's usually 12 months or 18 months, and usually there's 2. There's the first option period and the extension option period. And for that period of time, you are agreeing that for this amount of money, you will provide them with this period of time to try to set up the project with studio or streamer or to develop the project, right? So let's say it's a 12-month option for $10,000 with an extension for another 12 months for $15,000. The first option fee usually is applicable against the purchase price, and the second option fee usually is non-applicable against the purchase price. Now, a couple things. Sometimes producers, studios, or streamers will pre-negotiate the purchase price, contingent compensation, episodic fees, royalties, all of that at that time. Sometimes different producers will say, okay, so we're going to put in here that if and when the third-party financier, studio, streamer, what other entity comes to the party, we will negotiate at that time your purchase price for the film and TV rights for your book. If you're dealing with like a big studio or streamer, like say Netflix, Sony, Warner Brothers, HBO, then at that stage, you can probably go ahead and negotiate because they're the entity that is actually going to be producing it and writing the checks. If you're dealing with a producer or an independent producer and they say if and when the third party emerges, you can directly negotiate with the studio or streamer. that can be a good thing. And let me explain why. It can be a good thing because if that producer does their job well, they will attach, if it's an episodic, they'll attach a showrunner or they'll attach an actor. If it's a film, they might attach a director, a screenplay writer, or a star. If they do a good job in packaging the material and attaching those elements, then the value of your book or your series may increase. Example. So say an independent producer who has a few credits comes to you, Doug, and says, I want your best-selling series and I want to put it under an option agreement. And you will negotiate directly with Netflix or Sony or whoever if and when they decide to pick it up. The producer happens to be best friends with Brad Pitt. He gives Brad the series. Brad says, oh my God, I love this series. I want to star in it. We're going to run it through Plan B, my production company. I will have Business Affairs reach out. So now Business Affairs is going to reach out to you or to your representative, and you're going to be able to negotiate the film and TV rights for your book series. But your book series now has a greater value because Brad Pitt wants to star in it than it might have had before that element of the package was added. So as long as you're the one or your rep is the one who's directly negotiating with the third party, that makes sense. I don't advise allowing the producer to be the entity that negotiates on your behalf because the producer's agenda, while aligned as far as getting it set up, may not be as aligned with getting you the best deal because they want the project to move forward. Now, I can say I've never seen a project get hung up at that point because everyone is so all in to get it going and moving, especially if you have a studio who wants it and you have an element that can actually get a green light.
Very cool.
Good
a lot of words.
Also, I will say,
sorry,
guys. I think Brad Pitt would make
I
think Brad Pitt would make a great Chase Gordon. So
he's way too short. What are you talking about? It'd be like Tom Cruise's Reacher.
Whatever. He can come in and do whatever he wants to with it.
All right, Maggie, thank you for giving us all this time. This has been brilliant info, and we've got a million more things we'd love to ask you. So we've got to get you back on again at a later time if you're willing to do it. But we have one more question that we'd love to ask you, and we have a wheel of random questions.
We have our magic wheel of questions.
Oh, my golly. I had no idea there was a magic wheel involved.
It's the magic wheel. Yes, and we just updated all the questions, so we get new questions.
All right, I need to tone you down a little bit, Maggie. Don't get that excited. It's not that great.
These are some great questions. I put a lot of thought into some of these. Maybe not this next
Manage
one. Some of them. So,
yeah.
Don't get your hopes way up there. So, okay. Hey, you get to play hooky, and it is the perfect day. What are you going to go do?
Oh, I get to play hooky, and it's the perfect day. Which is the perfect day. That means my kids are visiting, and so we're going to go to the beach. We're going to go to the beach in Los Angeles, and then we're going to probably take a picnic to the beach, and then we're going to come home and get all the sand off, and then we're going to fire up the fire pit in the backyard and maybe have a glass of wine and hang out and talk. That's the perfect day.
Nice.
That's a pretty
that sounds
awesome
relaxing.
Actually, yeah. So.
And then I will go to bed early enough so that I have time to read. Do you know what I mean? Like I won't be so exhausted that I can still read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely perfect day.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure for us. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to both of you for asking me to be on. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Wow, I've got way too much to think about. How about you?
No kidding. I'm like, I should do this. I should do that. I should do this.
I was trying not to make notes, but I'm over here going, I need to do that.
I know.
That's a good
I was
idea.
thinking, well, screw it. I just have to listen to the show and I can make the notes down.
Forward this to my wife so she can tell me what I need to do. No, it's really great. And I think it's important. Like we take for granted all the legal stuff sometimes. And I know you and I, just like the copyright thing that we've talked about with Anthropic, both of us should have had our stuff copyrighted, but we didn't. So now, we know ahead of time it's better to learn that now for the next thing. So,
yep. I mean, apart from her being an absolute delight to chat with, she's a lovely lady. She's got such a background. I mean, she's written a bunch of books, like 20 books. She's experienced that part of it. She's been in every element of the entertainment business that we, as authors, might forever branch out into. Her wealth of experience, and the fact that she'll do consults and stuff with over the phone and some Zoom calls without a charge, that's unheard of. Really, really very cool.
She's definitely been around. So I mean, if you're looking for somebody you have a question about the business, we didn't just pull her out. I've seen her at 20 Books Author Nation. We know lots of good people who use her.
Her name comes up in every circle. If you talk about doing a contract for the author business, her name is immediately mentioned.
Yep. So definitely worth doing. And so smart. I'm just blown away by it. So
very, very cool.
And guys, remember that we had a really great 2-parter kind of a question on our Patreon. So if you'd like, there's one little bit I didn't get, jump over to that Patreon. It's $3 a month and you can get these bonus questions from her. Just check us out. If you find us at all valuable, or her valuable, then that's worth going.
She's very valuable.
She's valuable.
We ain't worth shit, but she's very valuable.
You know what else is valuable? Vellum. So we want to make sure we thank our Brads. Thank you, Vellum.
Appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Make sure if you're thinking of formatting a book, Vellum.
Check it out. Check out show notes for links to Maggie. And if she gets us the link to the FBI, you can drop in those fake scam letters there. Who knows?
Yeah, send your love notes to the FBI. All right, until next time, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favourite platform for new shows coming every week.